They can't harm you if they can't find you. This video sponsor Incogni can help protect you from identity thefts, hacks, or worse. Get a 60% discount on an annual subscription when you use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup. More details after the video. Gamers, no time for an intro because man, has it been a crazy week. Let's start with the juiciest story first. GTA 6 gameplay has been leaked. Again. Man, I'd hate to be a Netflix executive right now. I'd be pissed. Crazy to imagine that this is the third time this has happened to Rockstar, since the first was back in 2022 when Rockstar acknowledged a network hack, and it happened again in 2023 when the first trailer for GTA 6 was leaked a day early, forcing Rockstar to put up the official version a day ahead of schedule. But this week is a lot worse because it comes the week before the planned Netflix reveal of gameplay. Do recall that while Rockstar and Take-Two have already opened up pre-orders for the game, including the $100 edition that paywalls certain gameplay content, we still have not to this point actually seen the game properly. That was meant to happen next week on the 27th, exclusive to people who have a Netflix subscription, with the same content then uploaded to YouTube for free 6 hours later. What also makes this leak much worse is that it's clear that the leaker, a person or entity who goes by the handle CyberLeak, actually has a playable build of the game, something they've been able to prove by way of some of their leaked content. It does appear to be an older and incomplete build, but it has resulted in a large number of clips circulating the internet. CyberLeak claims to be doing this with altruistic intent, saying that the leaks are punishment for the actions of large publishers, citing digital game licenses, unfinished live service games, pre-existing downloadable content locked behind in-game transactions, and the shutdown of single-player games that rely on online infrastructure as their primary grievances. They also happen to be soliciting donations by way of a crypto coin they're selling, because nothing says pro-consumer more than buy my shitcoin. At one point, CyberLeak made a veiled reference to the Stop Killing Games initiative, suggesting that they too were trying to protect single-player games, game ownership, and game preservation. This led the Stop Killing Games initiative to issue an official condemnation of the hack. Quote, "Do not send these people your money, no matter how much sympathy you feel for their actions. Using illegal means to make a point is unacceptable to us and does nothing to protect our right to keep using what we paid for. No matter how strongly you disagree with the decisions of upper management at these companies, there are still thousands of developers who worked hard on this project, and they're the ones being hit the hardest. Channel that frustration into something constructive instead. This kind of act is destructive and helps no one. Worse, it risks tarnishing the reputation of our communities and our chance to make change," end quote. At the time of writing, this matter is still ongoing, with the hackers still unidentified and still promising to release more content unless their demands are met, and Rockstar issues some sort of apology. This all occurs as Rockstar prepares for its showdown with the Independent Workers Union of Great Britain, who accuse Rockstar of union-busting tactics relating to the sacking of some 30 staff without giving those staff an explanation for why exactly they were fired. Interestingly, the union put out a statement this week about the best way to support them, asking for consumers to not boycott GTA 6, but instead, quote, "win justice for the people who make it," end quote. They explain their reasoning by noting, quote, "We spent years pouring our hard work, skill, and creativity into making GTA, and we want people to experience the universe that we helped build," end quote. Instead of boycotting, the group asked for support by purchasing t-shirts to fund their legal battle against Rockstar. Quote, "As a small grassroots union with limited legal capacity taking on a multi-billion-pound company, we're not headed into this final round on an even footing. So if you love GTA but hate union busting, don't boycott the game, support our legal battle instead," end quote. Couldn't agree more with that sentiment. I'll leave a link to that fundraising initiative below the like button. Even with all this leaked gameplay footage of GTA 6, I wager the game itself won't be changed too much before it launches in November, right? Well, the same can't be said of the Horizon Hunters Gathering gameplay we saw a little while ago, because that game is reportedly undergoing a major overhaul. Since the game's announcement in February of this year, Guerrilla has been running playtests for their new live service title, and apparently things have not been going well. Originally, the game was set to be a co-op PvE experience with teams of 3, a narrative campaign, and multiplayer modes pitting hunters against the iconic robot beasts of the Horizon franchise. But Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reports that Guerrilla has been overhauling the game since June this year due to the negative feedback from playtesters, and claims, quote, "The plan now is to strip out the live service component and turn it into a more traditional cooperative multiplayer game with a story mode and a far smaller scope," end quote. If that feels like the beginning of the end for this title, don't be too hasty. Schreier assures that the game hasn't been cancelled, but Guerrilla does have until the end of the year to prove itself to Sony executives, after which point it may go on to join all of the other cancelled, unreleased live service projects that are the hallmark of Sony's first-party output this generation. What's even more baffling here is that Hunters Gathering was not a small offshoot team that they could easily reshuffle. The majority of Guerrilla Games was working on this, despite their aptitude for making single-player titles like the previous entries in the Horizon franchise. Schreier reports that, quote, "A tiny team has been plotting out the next single-player Horizon game, but it remains years away from completion," according to people familiar with studio's plans, end quote. Honestly, every time I hear about a new Sony live service cancellation, my blood boils. Sony won the last console generation on the back of high-quality single-player games, and rather than stick with that strategy, they bet the entire house on the live service gold rush, greenlighting upwards of 12 projects, many of them from their flagship studios, with the overwhelming majority of them being cancelled before they even released. Hell, Sony has somehow ended up with less live services than they started with thanks to the shuttering of Destiny 2. How can you be so bad at this that you not only fail to release new live service projects, but also fail to support existing successful ones? Just an absolutely mind-boggling level of executive brain stupidity that I'm absolutely sure no one will be held accountable for, except of course the developers, who had no say in it whatsoever and will end up getting laid off. Speaking of executive brain stupidity, let's check in with old mate Matt Karch, CEO of Saber Interactive. He certainly had a rough week last week after showing his whole ass, only to have it mercilessly spanked by anyone with a social media handle. Some context in case you missed it, narrative designer Stella Sacco, who worked on the upcoming Saber title Rideshare Stimulator, claimed that Saber, quote, took me off the project to use ChatGPT to write the rest of the text. I was there and it was my job to write the game, and then it wasn't once Matt Karch decided using ChatGPT would be great publicity for the game, end quote. In a response to PC Gamer, a Saber spokesperson rebuked these claims while also doubling down on their commitment to AI, while also assuring that, quote, none of our 3,000 employees have to worry about being replaced by AI, end quote. Our team at This Week in Video Games reached out to Saber for a response and received a statement attributed to Karch himself, in which he said many things, including an admission that the game does use AI despite not disclosing it on Steam. He then went on to remark of Sacco, quote, I would frankly in retrospect have been happy to replace her with AI. At least we would have been dealing with someone programmed to be honest, end quote. Would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the PR agency when that response came in. They'd be like, bonus billings this month, people, everyone's getting new iPhones. The backlash to this response was swift, garnering an outpouring of support for Sacco on social media, and even a dramatic reading of the rant by Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb.
It's very important to air your dirty laundry for everybody. Otherwise, people won't know that you're in charge.
Sacco provided her own response, saying, quote, I've seen the statement by Matt Karch, the CEO of Saber Entertainment, and all the truly horrendous things he said about me. I think it should be obvious to anyone who reads that statement that he's lashing out because he did not want people to know there was AI in the game, end quote. 3 days after Karch's public statement, Sacco again took to Blue Sky with a message that reads as follows, quote, last night, to my great surprise, I received a long email from Saber Interactive CEO Matt Karch. He apologized unreservedly for the awful way he spoke about me in the press. I've been firm from the beginning that I was telling the truth. I think we can all agree now that that's been borne out. Matt expressed a desire to make it right with me. At this time, I don't really know what that looks like for me, and I'll have to take some time to sit with it, but I do at least accept his apology. None of this changes my stance on AI. Matt and I obviously differ on this, and as a CEO, the consequences of its use fall on him, and unfortunately also on his employees. Apologies are simply in too short a supply these days to spurn one when it's offered, end quote. A very magnanimous response from someone who had little reason to extend so much grace, and a stark contrast to the conduct of Karch. We have contacted Saber Interactive to confirm that there was contact between Karch and Sacco, but in the meantime, Karch took to LinkedIn to pen his own public statement. It was a little weird. Quote, public reactions are rarely symmetrical. As a CEO, you aren't afforded the luxury of responding in kind, even when you feel wronged. Anything beyond a measured statement invites further drama and tags you as the aggressor. Relying on outrage algorithms for industry insights is a trap. Resolve issues human to human. Escalating disputes through media channels or public statements rarely solves anything. Real resolution happens through direct personal connection. If you cross a line, own it directly with the person involved, end quote. Okay, all of that's true, but I feel like you're giving us the advice that you needed to hear before you flew off the handle and did so much damage to Saber's brand. It's like if someone's an arsehole and then they get really serious, furrow their brow, turn to the person next to them and says, it's very important to not be an arsehole. He continued, quote, for some like me, fighting my urges is one of the hardest things I have to deal with. 25 years on, I still feel like I'm running a small company of my closest friends. There is a reason that there are different CEOs for different size businesses, and it's important to know what kind of CEO you are. Either you learn the lessons and adapt, or you move into the chairman role, end quote. And look, fair enough, that does sound legitimately introspective, and the fact that he's apologized to Sacco does count for something. Karch was unwavering with regards to his view on AI, however, writing, quote, stand firm on technology and innovation. Emerging tech like AI will always provoke strong reactions. While industry shifts are uncomfortable, hiding from them isn't an option. Our focus should remain on leveraging new tools to create better experiences and thoughtfully adapting our workforce for the future, regardless of the noise, end quote. One piece of good news to come out of all of this is that the Steam page for the game now includes the following statement on its use of AI. Quote, the main campaign, story, characters, and dialogue are written by a team of human writers. AI tools are used for voice generation and some localization. The optional free ride mode includes AI-generated passenger missions and localized dialogue. Free ride mode is separate from the main campaign and can be skipped by players who prefer to experience only human-written narrative content. The game also includes a mix of radio stations featuring human-made music and AI-generated music. Stations containing AI-generated music are clearly labeled as such in the game, end quote. So, AI writing, AI voices, and AI music. Sounds great. That is my kind of game. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it's the kind of game that anyone would be excited for. You need only scroll your uncle's Facebook page for all of 30 seconds to see just how good AI-generated content has gotten. This is the future that Saber Interactive sees. This is where they invest their time, money, and resources, and I do think that's worth keeping in mind as we look forward to their future projects, including John Wick and the KOTOR remake, because it does seem like Rideshare Simulator isn't a side quest for these guys, more like a beachhead that presages more ambitious deployments. Time will tell, I guess. Saber claims their studio is growing rapidly, but the same cannot be said of Invincible Versus developer QuarterUp, who is laying off an estimated 75% of their staff. QuarterUp was announced in 2025 by Walking Dead and Invincible producer Skybound Entertainment as their in-house game studio, with their first title being Invincible Versus. The 3v3 fighter launched to mixed reviews in April of this year, but a month later in May, it hit 1 million total players, which isn't bad. Now, 4 months after release, our very own website thisweekinvideogames.com has identified 10 LinkedIn posts from former QuarterUp employees announcing that they'd been laid off or were, quote, open to work, end quote. The posts all popped up between July and early August 2026, with one former senior gameplay engineer writing that they were, quote, laid off along with most of the rest of my team a couple of weeks ago, end quote. The statement was backed up by posts from other gameplay engineers, gameplay programmers, and QA testers, all alluding to a large number of redundancies at the studio. One anonymous employee actually spoke to This Week in Video Games about how the layoffs were conducted, and they say they happened in 2 waves. The first round happened in June of this year, and in July the person said that they believe, quote, something like 75% of QuarterUp was laid off, end quote, adding that meant 35 of the 50-person team had been let go. Another employee clarified that they thought the count was, quote, roughly 29 of us in July, noting that 4 other employees were laid off earlier in June, end quote. When asked about the reasoning behind the layoffs, one employee said that the, quote, assumption is that Invincible Versus didn't perform to what QuarterUp expected, and unfortunately they didn't have the budget to keep people around, end quote. So what about the future of Invincible Versus? Well, it doesn't look too bright beyond the first season of DLC, with one source claiming, quote, I think the only people that are remaining there are a skeleton crew to support the game through the first wave of DLC, end quote. They did go on to say that QuarterUp intends to release all upcoming DLC for the fighter, but couldn't speak to the longevity of the game after that, saying, quote, I know that there was definitely a desire in the studio to support our game long term, end quote. As for the studio itself, the source said, quote, my guess is that they'll go back to the drawing board. QuarterUp specifically was made as a fighting game studio. I think there's definitely a desire to make video games with Skybound's IPs, so I wouldn't be surprised if Skybound took another crack at the games industry, end quote. We did reach out to Skybound Entertainment to confirm the number of layoffs, but they have not responded to us at the time of writing. Very sad when a seemingly well-backed studio can't even take a relatively safe bet without having to lay off most of its workers. Best of luck to all of those affected. Not for nothing, but that was another story that we broke this week, because that's what our team over at thisweekinvideogames.com is doing. They're out there chasing stories and breaking news, and they serve it up 100% ad-free thanks to our supporters who fund the work that we do. So if you want to support truly independent ad-free journalism, then sign up for a 7-day free trial over at thisweekinvideogames.com. A big thanks to everyone who continues to support the work that we do. And now let's get back to it. The future of Invincible Versus is up in the air, but not so for Riot's 2XKO, because this week Riot confirmed that active development of the game will stop at the end of 2026, only 6 months after its full release in February of this year. 2XKO was not just an offshoot in Riot's portfolio, it was previously known as Project L and was in development for 10 years, helmed by Tom and Tony Cannon, the brothers that also founded Evo. In an official announcement on Riot Games' website, the company's surface reasoning behind the end of development was that, quote, while a lot of you jumped in to try the game and there's an incredible community that plays every day, we haven't seen enough players stick with the game to get a path towards sustainability, end quote. They will go into detail that servers will remain up past 2026 and the game will still be playable on all platforms. The team outlined what players can expect for the rest of the year, including new content fixes, playable characters in Lux and Samira, and noting that offline play is unaffected by the shutdown. One huge effort to keep disheartened players happy is that Riot promises to unlock all characters, bundle cosmetics, and refund all money spent on the game on or before August 20th, clarifying that all content players own is there to keep. But why fully end development? Riot is a massive studio and that League of Legends money should be able to cover some smaller projects, right? Well, the team preempted that question. Quote, "We evaluated the game's overall performance, not just revenue, but retention, new players, and engagement through 2026. We saw no meaningful, sustained change in 2XKO's trajectory, only a fraction of what it would take to trend towards sustainability. We would have continued active development if we saw any viable future, but 2XKO costs us substantially more to operate than it brings in, and engagement has stayed relatively flat despite our larger updates," end quote. Riot signs off by giving some hope that they're not quite done trying to spin up new games. Quote, "Ultimately, we're proud of the game this team built. We're grateful to everyone who made this game what it is today, and we're looking forward to the rest of this year's releases. Looking to the future, you can count on Riot to keep exploring new genres and ways to bring players together. For now, we're focusing on leaving 2X in a great spot. Then we'll head back into the R&D lab, but we'll take time to learn and work on how we come back stronger for the next swing at the next genre," end quote. A quick lightning round to finish off, and let's start with some new studio news, since it's nice to be able to report when some of them open instead of close. Mattel, the toy company with the rights to Barbie, Hot Wheels, Masters of the Universe, American Girl doll, and many more toy IPs, is launching a game studio. The outfit will be called Mattel Game Studios, or MGS. MGS. It's my Solid Snake impression, by the way. I hope you like that one. And it comes after the full acquisition of mobile game developer Mattel 163, which was originally a joint studio venture between Mattel and NetEase. MGS will develop and publish, quote, "original interactive experiences inspired by Mattel's portfolio of iconic brands," end quote. They serve as a subsidiary studio to Mattel Digital Studios, which has around 300 developers across LA and Hangzhou. Seems like MGS will focus on mobile games and, quote, "original experiences on creative platforms such as Roblox and Fortnite," end quote. They currently have a Hot Wheels title in development and a soft launching their new Uno game, Uno Wild. Mattel is no stranger to the video games business, having published off and on since 1996. Over on This Week in Videogames.com, our very own Maddie Agnew has a great piece about this year's video game Barbenheimer moment, when Barbie Rewind and GTA 6 launched within a week of each other. Go check it out. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. While Mattel's video game prospects look bright, Netflix seems to be jumping into a void of studio closures. According to GameFile, they're closing 2 studios. The first one is Night School Studio, creators of Oxenfree and After Party, as well as Moonlude Studio, who Netflix acquired in 2022, but they never actually ended up shipping a game. Roles will also allegedly be cut from Netflix's internal games team, but the total number of roles is unknown. In a statement to GameFile, a Netflix spokesperson said, quote, "We see an opportunity to be more focused in our execution, so we are making organizational changes to the business to match those priorities," end quote. Nice statement, guys. Really tugs at the heartstrings, that one. Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming soon-ish. That's right, I got a flashy new trailer during Disney's D23 event that included a section inspired by the movie Coco, and even segments where you can control Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. The trailer ended with a release date of late 2027. During a panel discussion, Kingdom Hearts 4 co-director Tai Yasue wanted to ease the expectation of eager fans by saying, quote, "At this year's D23, we're finally able to announce a release date for Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm really excited about that as well, and I can confidently say and promise that it will launch in 2027. Schedule-wise, development is very smooth. It's not like an 80% thing or a 90% thing, it's a 100% thing. So we'll be there in 2027 for sure. I promise you that," end quote. Nomura-san then followed up Yasue's remarks saying, quote, "I saw online that people were saying, oh, you know, maybe the actual release date might still get pushed back. I just wanted to set the record straight. That is not happening," end quote. Okay, you heard it from the man himself. Kingdom Hearts 4 in late 2027. Oh, and did you guys see that key art for the Kingdom Hearts anime adaptation on Netflix? Apparently, it, quote, "reimagines the iconic adventure with a brand new story that will expand on the universe of Kingdom Hearts while celebrating the characters that have captured the hearts of millions of fans around the world," end quote. If it can do for Kingdom Hearts what Edge Runners did for Cyberpunk, then I'm all for it. Just keep the lore dumps to a minimum, okay? Leave that to the YouTubers and the wikis. And finally, some bittersweet news. This week, the legendary Warren Spector announced his retirement from game development. The mastermind behind some of the most groundbreaking immersive sims like Deus Ex and Thief, as well as titles like Ultima, Epic Mickey, and Wing Commander, announced his retirement over LinkedIn, saying, quote, "I've had a great career. I wouldn't change a thing even if I could, but the reasons to retire are simple. I'm a month away from my 44th year as a developer. I've had the chance to work on tabletop role-playing games and board games. I've worked on more digital games than I can remember, 17 full games, I think, and 9 or so add-on packs. Gratifyingly, some of those are still being played 15, 20, 30 years later, and most of them have been in a genre that's had an influence beyond what I or anyone else expected. With all that behind me, and with age and health, my business, catching up with me, I'm feeling like I've done what I set out to do. But the game business has changed, and it's just not as much fun for me anymore. Plus, there's a new generation of developers coming up who deserve their time in the sun. For all of you reading this, I want you to remember that games are not a solved problem yet. There is, I hope, plenty of experimentation and innovation to come. And And to all you young developers out there, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, your job is to make people forget people like me ever existed, end quote. Spector leaves an indelible mark on video games, pioneering game design in ways that have resonated across different franchises and genres. Truly one of the best to ever do it. And while he hopes that we might forget him, I don't think we will be anytime soon. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, Devolver Digital's been a bit busy, even beyond the whole let's go back to being a private company thing. They had two announcements this week. The first is a new game called Hyperdrop, which is being developed by a solo indie dev out of Australia. The premise for this one is imagine a roguelike that revolves around pachinko or peggle, so a bunch of little balls getting dropped and bounced around an obstacle course of pins, and then add the neon-infused art style and electronica of something like Geometry Wars. Seems expertly tuned to keep you locked in. This one doesn't have a release date just yet, but there is a free demo you can try right now on Steam. I've actually been playing this one for the past few weeks since Devolver sent me an early copy, and while it's still clearly very early, the endorphin release when shit starts popping off is absolutely euphoric. I kind of love this, and I'll be eagerly following its development. The irresistible combination of gambling and roguelike mechanics strikes again. Elsewhere, Devolver's Ticket to the Stickman, the 2D physics-based beat-em-up game from Angerfoot developers Free Lives, is coming out of early access on the 23rd of September. This one landed in early access about a year ago now, where it's since earned an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam with over 8,000 reviews counted. Definitely not a bad place to be. This one's remaining PC only, at least for now. Hey, remember Anemo, that game that showed up at an Xbox showcase and is basically an open world Pokemon game that goes hard on graphics and notably does not have any guns like Power World? Well, that got a release date of September 16th for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles, as well as mobile platforms. That one is free to play though, so do keep an eye on monetization stuff if you decide to jump in. If you prefer to eat the creatures you catch rather than train them, then Dave the Diver is probably the game for you. If you haven't played this one or haven't gotten enough of it yet, Mint Rocket has announced they're throwing this one on iOS and Android on September 17th. It'll be free to download initially with a single purchase to unlock the full game, with some DLC packs also available. Right, so what came out last week? Well, let's start with Hell Let Loose Vietnam, which takes the intensity of the World War II shooter and brings it into a new scenario. Sadly, it doesn't seem like this one has landed in quite the same way, as the sentiment on Steam is currently mixed after 7,000 reviews, just 60% of them positive. The main complaints? Well, there are a few: bugs, balancing, and a relative lack of content. However, Steam user Johnny Simp thinks these issues run deeper though, since the two opposing factions are quite similar in playstyle. Here's a few snippets of their review after 7 hours with the game. Quote, naturally this game is still fun and has similar gunplay and pacing to Hell Let Loose World War II, which I enjoyed a lot, but it doesn't really fit the title of a Vietnam game. Unfortunately, these mostly seem to be core design issues, so I doubt the game will ever feel like something other than a quick reskin of the World War II version with assault rifles in a jungle setting, end quote. Echoes of Mistralia was that Hades-like that controlled like Diablo, which hit early access. This one's mostly positive on Steam after over 400 reviews, 79% of them positive. Steam user Nekathes has 13 hours in this thing, and here's what they had to say. Quote, the gameplay loop currently keeps me engaged more than other roguelites to have come out recently, because it truly feels a lot more like you're building something new every time instead of following a to-do list. I tend to fall half asleep playing some well-rated roguelikes because they eventually reach a rhythm where you stop thinking about what you're doing. Even if you do build a lawnmower of a build, you still have to be present to make use of it, and the animations are truly too beautiful to not enjoy watching over and over, especially as they evolve. The long and the short of it, please give this game a try. It has both an excellent foundation and limitless potential to be amazing, end quote. One of the few games this week that was universally praised on Steam looked no further than Servant of the Lake, the latest in the eerie Rusty Lake adventure puzzle series. This one has hit the overwhelmingly positive bracket on Steam with almost 4,500 reviews counted. Steam user Silky Fania gave this one a thumbs up after 7 hours and said, quote, I played the previous Rusty Lake games and I gotta say this one is definitely creepier and darker. There are even some small jump scares. Love the graphics and characters who are wonderfully strange. The lore is very good and I loved all those little hints from the previous Rusty Lake games. It makes me want to replay them all, end quote. Taking a look back now at a radar pick from a couple of weeks ago, the liminal space indie Souls-like Memoirium. Looks like this one is still flying under the radar with under 50 reviews on Steam, but 95% of them are positive. Here's Steam user Hitlerdeus30, who has 22 hours in it so far, saying, quote, an absolutely amazingly done Souls-like. As someone who loves the genre but has gotten a bit fatigued of the same sort of thing in recent years, the game does an amazing job at both sticking to what makes the genre fun while also setting itself apart in both theme and gameplay. It's hard to quite describe what it gets right in that regard, but it does get it very, very right. An easy recommendation from me, end quote. Another of our radar picks now, though this one from last week, Projank Footy. This one's got a mostly positive sentiment on Steam so far after 170 reviews, 79% of them positive. Steam user DX Petty has about 5 hours in this thing and describes it as, quote, one part NBA Jam, one part Balatro, one part Goat Sim, mixed with an AFL sauce, and you have the chaotic, maddening joy that is Projank Footy. Outside of the gameplay, between the commentary, the team names / designs, and songs, and all the other little nuggets, there is real AFL and Aussie culture bursting at the seams here. Kudos to Powerbomb Games. I truly hope this brings a little bit of Australia into everyone's home / lives, end quote. Mortal Shell 2 now, the Souls-like sequel that by all accounts has done a bang-up job this second time around after a middling debut. This one's sitting at a mighty 85 on OpenCritic with over 50 reviews, all generally quite keen on it. Here's GameSpot, who landed at an 8 out of 10, saying, quote, Mortal Shell 2 constantly surprises surprised me. Whether it was the mechanics behind a newly discovered shell, the layered improvements to combat, a bulbous monstrosity of a boss fight that was more mouth than anything else, or the ways you can tinker with a build to make it wholly your own. It stumbles at times and could use fine-tuning to really hone its balance issues, but even if it can be irritating or too simplistic at times, these moments are overshadowed by its unmistakable strengths, end quote. Austin also reviewed this one for the channel, link below the like button. TLDR, he really liked it. Almost enough to give it a strong recommend, but the game is held back by some lackluster boss design and a fairly limited approach to level design that doesn't keep pace with its contemporaries, but the core fundamentals of combat, class design, customization, and enemy design are all punching well above their weight, especially for a game made by a team of around 35 people. A big success for the studio, so a big congrats to them. If you want to watch Austin's full review, then like I said, link below the like button. You know the like button, right? It's that thing you've already pressed. Wait, what, you haven't pressed it yet? Don't worry, I forgive you. No one's perfect, and you got the rest of the video to make it up to us. Plenty of time. Okay, so what's coming out this week? Well, it's really starting to get a bit stacked here, folks, and I'm not liking the look of my schedule right now. On the plus side, plenty of variety in this week's releases. We'll start off with Sikadamata, which we featured on our radar segment a little while ago now on account of its cool demo. This is a low poly FPS with a focus on speed and aesthetics. Marathon in this game definitely hitting some of the same notes, and its full release will be available by the time you're watching this video, PC only for this one. Jumping over to next week on Tuesday, August 25th, the next game from Assassin's Creed creator Patrice Desilets and his new studio Panache Digital enters Steam Early Access. It's called 1666 Amsterdam, and it's a historical narrative action adventure about wielding witchcraft and uncovering demons. Also, you play as a cat from the future, apparently. Some interesting comments from Desilets during the previews for this one about the studio's use of generative AI. They reckon that none of it is in the final product, but I'm sure if someone sniffs something out, we'll hear about it. PC only for now. You know what else had a good cat? The movie Alien. And maybe that same cat will appear in Aliens Fireteam Elite 2, which is also launching on August 25th. This is, of course, the third-person co-op shooter based on the franchise where you shoot a bunch of aliens with a lot of bullets. Some previews for this one just came out, and it seemed pretty alright. Maybe worth a look if your big walk squad just needs to shoot a bunch of things to unwind. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one. For the indie roguelike lovers out there, also coming out on August 25th is another one we featured in our radar segment before. It's called Blood Dungeon, and it comes from Messhoff, the studio that made Wheel World and Nidhogg. The team here really loved the previews and demos for this one. It's a 2D platformer that mixes Spelunky vibes with Survivor-style auto shooting, but it's also got a kind of gross Microsoft Paint art style that gives it a comedic edge, and really the source it needs to stand out. Definitely check this one out. It comes out on PC, PS5, Xbox Series console, Switch 1, and Switch 2. Hopefully you've already watched my preview of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. If you haven't, definitely go check that one out now, because man, it feels like that one's going to be very special. But if you need another tactical JRPG to satisfy your cravings in the meantime, it might be worth checking out this next one, Brigadine Abyss, which comes out on Wednesday, August 26th. This is the third title in an RPG series that started on the PlayStation 1 and sat dormant until the second game came out in 2020. I would say this one's a bit of a lesser known entity. It involves tactical battles as well as a bit of grand strategy as you basically embody factions and nations in military campaigns across great swathes of land. PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch 2 for this one. If you're up to something a little more chill, then do check out Lose Lagoon, which is being released on August 27th. This one's a really nice looking exploration and crafting game with no combat to speak of, but a sick looking seaplane to fly between islands. You'll fly from place to place gathering resources with your gravity gun thing, craft shit and rebuild settlements. Looks very wholesome. This one will be out on PC, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and Switch 2. Okay, back to some hectic shit. Plagues. Sobo's Plague Tale games have been pretty damn good if you ask me. Like just really good AA experiences that do some really interesting things and keep you sat. Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy, is going to be trying some new things, some of which didn't click with me when I got a chance to preview it, but given the track record of this studio, I'm inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. If you're not familiar, the Plague Tale games so far have been cinematic narrative adventure games focused on stealth, but this new one's a prequel and it follows a different cast of characters who are a bit more capable, and so it's much more focused on action combat as well as some dual timeline hijinks. Austin will be reviewing this one for us, so do look forward to his coverage at or near embargo. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series for this one, August 27th. Another preview I put up recently was for Star Wars Zero Company, the turn-based tactics game put together by a new outfit called Bit Reactor, who are made up of several developers who hail from Firaxis, the studio that put out Marvel's Midnight Suns, and of course, the genre-defining XCOM reboot. I really loved basically everything I experienced in my preview, and hopefully that continues to be true across the entire campaign. August 27th for this one, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. A quick mention for the sports JRPG nerds out there, since that's a genre that doesn't pop up all too often. Bandai Namco is also putting out Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters on August 27th for PC, PS5, Xbox, and Switch. Feels like they just mistimed this one with the whole World Cup wrapping up last month. If the title doesn't ring a bell, it's based on an iconic retro manga and anime series from the 1980s about a soccer prodigy and his rise from school star to international player. It since has had a few revivals, and the series is said to have inspired several current football stars to get into the sport in the first place. Expect real-time soccer action combined with plenty of anime stuff. And finally, speaking of anime stuff, one series where you find plenty of it, although pretty well disguised, is Metal Gear Solid. Konami's Master Collection Volume 2 is the last game to come out on August 27th, and this one is extremely notable because it contains Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, which has literally not been seen since it originally came out on the PS3 in 2008, thanks mainly to the challenging nature of PS3 hardware. Konami have been working to repair their reputation for being respectable shepherds of video games after a few questionable years, and this move is the next notable step. It also comes with the excellent Peace Walker, which was the portable direct sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3, as well as the Game Boy Color game Metal Gear Ghost Babel, which was also a very good portable Metal Gear game. Nice little package, this one. Since we're talking about Japan, maybe we'll keep talking about it with this next one, which puts its own unique twist on one of the weirder trends to come out of the country, so put this on your radar. This is Slayblade, and it is of course a game that reimagines the weirdly persistent fad of Beyblades, those battling spinning tops that today's kids are somehow really into. Slayblade reimagines those battles by giving you a bit of direct control over your top while maintaining some of the unpredictability that comes with high-speed spinning and momentum, and fashions everything into a light roguelike structure that's set in an early 2000s Australian town. You can buy new parts and mods for your Slayblade, get into battles including illegal back alley ones, and become the undisputed king or queen of letting it rip. And no, I'm not talking about farts there. This one comes from an Australian two-man dev studio called Henry's House, who have been responsible for some pretty nice games like TCG Shop Simulator Cardboard Kings, as well as the slick arcade adventure game Desert Child. They're very good with slick UIs and cool vibes, and Slayblade has plenty of it for nostalgic millennials. The Steam description also says that if you die in the game, you die in real life, but we haven't been able to verify that, so buyer beware. Slayblade will be out on PC by the time you read this, and there's also a free demo on Steam if you're curious. If you are curious, then we've left a link to it over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other put this on your radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. A quick feel-good story to finish. One of our favorite categories of feel-good story is weird, officially licensed products based on video games that no one asked for. Colognes based on various Resident Evil characters certainly come to mind. Sure, I'd like to smell like Leon S. Kennedy, but do I deserve to smell like Leon S. Kennedy? Do any of us deserve that? I think not. Perhaps I'll settle for this instead. A 10-inch World of Warcraft cast iron skillet from Lodge Cast Iron. Finally, you can cook your steak on a skillet that has the WoW logo on the bottom of it. Max out that cooking skill and be ready for raid night with a pan that is seasoned and ready to use, naturally non-toxic, and made in the US of A. You could even purchase a display stand for it for 20 bucks, so I think that Lodge Cast Iron knew exactly how often this thing would be used for cooking. My question is, can we expect a broader range of WoW-themed kitchen paraphernalia? A Doomhammer meat tenderizer, a Bulwark of Azeroth cheese grater, a food processor with the twin blades of Azeroth doing all the spinning, an Ashbringer cheese knife with a big lump of mozzarella where the floating orb should be. Damn, I was joking at first, but I think I'm onto something here. Call me Blizzard, if this stuff never makes it to market, at least it'll make for a really good April Fool's trailer. All right, ladies and gents, by this time next week, the official GTA gameplay would have dropped, and we'll get our first proper look at the game you've probably already pre-ordered. Lots to look forward to in the meantime, however, including some big previews out of Gamescom, reviews for Star Wars Zero Company and A Plague Tale Resonance, not to mention that Dustbloods test, which I managed to sneak into. Not sure if I can do any content on that one since we're not allowed to record or stream it, but I'll certainly be talking about it at some point. Oh, and I also played Wolverine this week, so do expect a preview for that one going up tomorrow night. For now though, that's all I got, so thanks for tuning in. Do be sure to hit that like button if you haven't, since this is your last chance to do it. Have a great week, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye. Your personal data is everywhere, whether you like it or not, but this video sponsor Incogni can help you get a lot of that data removed from places you don't want it to be, resulting in a safer browsing experience and more privacy for you and your family. Incogni makes it super simple. You sign up, you enter your details, you give it the required permissions, and after that, Incogni steps in and sends out hundreds of automated requests to reclaim your data. All of their plans will remove you from over 420 known harmful broker sites, and it will keep removing you from them if your name gets relisted on one of these sites. That immediately results in a lot more online privacy and security for you. But Incogni are taking things even further now with the new features available on their unlimited plans. Their new exposure scanner maximizes visibility of who has your data. It scans far and wide to surface your personal information and provides that to you in a single view so you can work directly with Incogni staff to do a custom removal. You'll also get a monthly risk assessment report showcasing not only your current exposures, but also successful removal requests. And it's even easier to see and improve your online personal safety now thanks to the rollout of the new Incogni app for both iOS and Android. It's never been more important to take control of your personal data, and it's never been easier or more affordable thanks to Incogni. Use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup to get 60% off an annual subscription. Take your personal data back and get a 60% discount while doing it by visiting incogni.com/skillup using offer code SKILLUP at checkout. Thanks Incogni for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.